Hey guys, welcome to my very first Patreon guitar lesson. This is exciting. Um, I'm excited to have a platform where I can be more thorough and have some consistency from lesson to lesson so that we can build on some concepts rather than just give you licks or something like that. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited for this. I hope you guys are too. Um, Today, I want to talk about something pretty cool that I have a lot of fun doing and have been trying to get better at for a long time, and hopefully, and selfishly a little bit, I hope that by teaching this, I get even better at it too. It's something called cascading. Now, what that means is, take, for example, well, rather than explain what it means, I'll just play for you so you can hear what it sounds like. So, for example, if we have an A mixolydian scale, most people probably play it something like that, right? Every note is fretted and everything, and you hear one note at a time. And that, most of the time, is what you want. But something kind of cool is using an effect like this. That's cascading. And essentially, to me, what it is doing is emulating a harp or a piano with a sustain pedal down, or chimes, kind of. And how we're achieving that is using open strings and using a couple shapes that let notes overlap on top of each other where they wouldn't normally do such a thing. So let's start with this one. I feel like A mixolydian is a good place to start with this. So essentially what we're going to do is, for starters, look at the scale, and any note in that scale where we can replace it with an open string rather than the fretted note that we normally do, we're going to do that instead. So let's go through one note at a time and figure out what we want to do here. So first off, rather than a fretted A, we have an A string, right? So just play an open A instead of fretting it. So we're going to start with an open A string. And if you're comfortable hybrid picking, that's what I do. So I would probably, I don't think about it too much, but I think what I would normally do is hit that first note with my index finger. All right? And then the next notes after that, we have an A. We're really just going off the alphabet. So B is the next letter, right? So here's a B, and then a C sharp. Now here's another ingredient that we want to use for this sound that we're trying to get, is the interval of a second. B and C sharp are a whole step apart. They're adjacent letters in the alphabet, right? So even though they're close together, so they should be easy to grab, a piano player would have no problem doing that, that's actually a pretty hard stretch on guitar. So that might be a stretch or a shape that you're not that familiar with. So start getting used to it. And it's going to help a lot to contribute the sound that we're trying to get. So we have this. After that is a D note. We can play that as an open string. Now we're going to do that same shape we did before. We have an E and an F sharp and an open G. So far we have this. Right? Okay, let's keep going up. So after that open G, we're back to where we started, but up an octave, right? So now we just do the same thing we did before, but up an octave. So after that, we'll do a B note, but a B string. And then we're going to do C sharp and D. And we're just going to fret that one, right? We could do this if you're feeling adventurous. I think that's a little tricky and unnecessary for some reason. So we're just going to do this. Makes you go out of position a lot. All right? And then an open E. And then... So when you put it all together, we have this. Pretty neat, huh? All right, so I want you to get that down and keep working on it. And I want you to do it enough where it doesn't seem foreign anymore. At first, it might seem kind of weird because notes, at least on a sound level, are going low to high or high to low, as you would think they would, but you're jumping strings, which seems counterintuitive. It's a little bit of this kind of thing, right? So that's something to kind of surmount. You'll know when you're starting to get the mechanics of it, when you can kind of turn your brain off and your hands are doing the work without you really thinking about it too much. So start getting to that point, but be patient. Everything takes time. So the next thing I want to do, I only want to talk in the key of A today. Next week, I want to go further with this and have sort of an evolved version of this lesson where we take it one step further, or maybe even two. But for today, I want to give you a couple different scales, all in A, to get used to this cascading concept with. So we just did A mixolydian. Let's do old-fashioned, good old plain A major, or A Ionian as well. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, right? So this one has one less open string we can use because it has a G sharp instead of a G natural. So here it is though. So instead of this, we're going to do this. Until here, it's the same thing we did before, but now we don't have a G natural anymore. We have a G sharp. So I'm just going to fret all three notes in a row. And again, if you're feeling ballsy, you could do this. More power to you if you can, but I'm going to keep it a little simpler. So we're going to do this. Then we have an open B string, and then C sharp and D. Open E string. And that's pretty cool because we end with a minor second, G sharp and A, which is a very clashy interval. On its own, standalone, it sounds pretty hideous. It sounds like a phone that's off the hook. But if you play an A under it, you can sell it as hard as you want. All right, so there's A major. All right, I'm going to give you a couple more. Let's do A natural minor now. This one's got some more intense stretches in it. So maybe don't try and tackle this one first. Wait till your hands are a little more stretched out. But anyways, normally we would do this, right? All right, instead, we're going to do this. Open A. And then we have a minor second way down here. This is a big stretch. And then the same exact shape up another set of strings. Right? Right? And then we have an open B string, C and D, open E. So we get this. Okay, let's do a couple more. How about A Dorian? If you're a crunchy hippie jam band fan like me, Dorian's going to come in handy a lot, particularly A Dorian. But before we can do any of that stuff, we need to systematically get a shape we can rely on and go straight up and down it so that we know what notes we have available to us to improvise in this sort of sound of Dorian, but with lots of open strings and chiminess. So we're going to do this. Right? Then we got an A, open B, I did Aeolian by accident. Here we go. Cool. Now we're going to do one more that's a little trickier. We're going to try harmonic minor, which is a minor scale that has a flat 3 and a flat 6, but it has a major 7th like a major scale has. It's a very recognizable sound. Some would say it sounds sort of Spanish or Middle Eastern or something, but it goes like this. Think of it as like you took natural minor or Aeolian and you raised the 7th note in the scale. So you made any G note a G sharp. So all right. So now though, it's going to be like this. Cool. So I want you to try getting all of those down. I'm going to include a sort of a PDF or whatever you call it, written out diagram of musical staff notation and tablature with fingerings for all of these to help you guys out. And once I put up next week's lesson, which goes a little bit further, ideally you guys have these down a little more so that the next step doesn't seem so tough. So get to work, and don't be afraid to start experimenting with it and play it straight up and down and have the discipline to do that systematically, but explore with it too once you have a little bit of technical facility to do it. Start improvising, maybe writing something using stuff like this, or maybe in any scale that you have, just start thinking about places where you could play open strings instead. Even if you don't have a guitar in your hands, think in your head of scale shapes that you know and notes that are in that scale that you could play with open strings instead. And you'll be well on your way. And I'll see you guys next week. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching.